Welcome to my channel, little horrorlings. Gather round. Mama's got some stories for you to keep you up at night and give you nightmares. A few years ago, my husband Connor, my 3-year-old daughter Addison and I moved to a new house temporarily. Ours had been flooded throughout after heavy rain and severe weather conditions. We were grateful that we had a dry and safe place to reside in, although the house was a brick law set surrounded by unkempt tangled gardens, and the inside gave off a dark and gloomy appearance. It was very old and the lighting wasn't very good. It consisted mostly of many thin hallways with only a few lamps mounted on the walls. The only actual ceiling light was in the bathroom. Given that the house was quite dark even during the day, and it was almost pitch black at night, my husband had to leave town for work on the second night in that house. I was nervous about my daughter and I being alone. I felt uneasy and unsettled in this new house, but I simply put that down to being in an environment that I wasn't familiar with. I told myself I'll soon get used to it. A couple of hours after my husband left for work, I put my daughter in the bathtub and was washing her hair when I heard, clear as day, somebody call out, "Hey, Em!" I immediately spun round, surprised, as the house was silent and I wasn't expecting anybody else to be there. "Dad, is that you?" I was certain it was my dad's voice. It sounded almost identical. My name's Emma, but he's the only person who calls me Em, so it must have been him. But there was no reply, not a single sound other than my daughter splashing in the bathtub. I quickly rinsed my daughter's hair and reached for my phone from the bathroom sink, dialing my dad's number. "Hey, Dad, are you at my house?" I asked when he answered. "Hey, Em, no, I'm at work. Why's that?" I was quite shaken because I was certain about what I'd heard. "I just heard someone say, 'Hey, Em,' and it sounded like you. Connor's at work, so it can't have been him." "No, sorry, it definitely wasn't me. Maybe you're just imagining things, being at a new house and all." I was still certain about what I'd heard, but I agreed with my dad and hung up the phone as I had to get my daughter out of the bath. Now, to get from the bathroom to my bedroom, it was just one long hallway. So I wrapped a towel around my daughter and walked into the bedroom, expecting her to follow me so I could get her dressed. I turned round to see her still standing at the end of the hallway, wrapped in the towel, just staring at me. "Addison, come and get dressed, please," I said. Sorry, I can't." She shook her head nervously. "Well, why can't you?" I asked. She slowly rose her arm forward and pointed down the dimly lit hallway directly in front of me. "Because that little girl is standing right there." Her comment made my skin crawl and I was lost for words, although I attempted to brush it off for her sake. "What? Addison, come on. There's no little girl here. Come and get dressed, please." She lowered her arm, but she remained standing still and staring for a couple more seconds before she said, "I don't think she is a good girl, Mummy." I was really disturbed by this comment, so I decided to call my sister to come over, as my husband didn't have any phone service at work. While we were waiting for her, I put a mattress on the lounge room floor for my daughter and I to sleep on for the night, to avoid having to go back down that hallway. After putting Addison to bed, my sister arrived, and I made her a coffee and brought it to her on the front porch. "So, whatever you have to tell me, I guess Connor wants to know too," she laughed. I was puzzled. I had no idea what she meant by that. So I asked, Connor, what do you mean? Connor's at work. Are you guys trying to play a joke on me? She replied. Because if Connor's at work, who is that standing by the window? She pointed to my bedroom window behind her. I was absolutely frozen still, looking into the bedroom from the front porch. In my bedroom window was a large outline of a man. Oh my God, I muttered under my breath. I hadn't told my sister a thing about what was going on yet, so she was quite confused and also creeped out. We packed some clothes and stayed at her house for a couple of days until my husband returned home from work. Now, being a skeptic and definitely not a believer of the paranormal, my husband assumed that there was a logical explanation for all of the encounters and insisted that we go back to the house. The first night my husband was home, my daughter and I were having a movie night round at my friend's house, and we weren't planning on coming home until late. I got a call from my husband frantically telling me to come home and pack some things as we were going to stay at my mum's for the night. So I rushed home, and when I got there, he explained. He had been lying on the mattress on the lounge room floor watching movies, and he was just starting to drift off to sleep. He heard the front door open and slam closed. He assumed that I had come home, so didn't bother opening his eyes. He said he then heard footsteps walking towards him and felt small, soft hands pat his head, brushing his hair back from his face, only when he opened his eyes, there was nobody there. We moved out of this house as soon as we could, which was about a couple of weeks later. It's safe to say that it's been nice to be living in a home with no creepy ghost man, no creepy little girl, and no doors slamming repeatedly at night. It's around 5 a.m. and I'm in bed starting to doze off after sending my fiancé off to work and putting my daughter to sleep in the bassinet beside the bed. It's quiet this early in the morning. The faint glow from the street lamp outside is peeking through my curtains and only allows me to see outlines and shadows. I'm almost asleep when I hear a creak from inside the house. This is normal for an old house, so I ignore it and relax back into the bed. A few seconds later, I hear a sudden loud crash that echoes throughout the room. With a gasp, I sit up, muscles tense. It sounded like someone had charged at the wall like a bull and slammed their whole body into it. I try to listen for any movement over the sound of my beating heart, and nothing happens for a long time. Eventually, I started to rationalize to myself. It was probably something falling over, or a car backfiring, or perhaps even the neighbours. After a bit more time, I laugh nervously to myself and tell myself it must have been my imagination. So I lie back down and try to go back to sleep. A few minutes later, just as I'm beginning to relax, it happens again. Bang! With a shout, I leap out of bed, grab my baby, close my bedroom door and cower in my bed. I'm curled around my daughter, breaths coming out in gasps as I try to calm my crying baby, who clearly senses my terror. I stay there listening to the loud bangs that occur around every 15 minutes. This finally ends when the sun starts to rise. From that day on, I begged my fiancé not to leave most mornings, but I know that we needed the money so that we could move out of this nightmare house. This occurred not once, but many times throughout my residency. I always hated it when the darkness crept in and the ghosts slithered out of the shadows. Thank you for listening, my little horrorlings. Don't forget to leave a comment down below and let me know what you think of tonight's stories. Give this video a thumbs up and hit the notification bell to find out first about new videos. And whatever you do, don't forget to check for monsters underneath your bed. Sweet dreams.